I was teaching sophomore English when 3 loud pops echoed through the building, and every kid in my classroom froze. That's when Principal Baxter came on the intercom with his fake cheerful voice, saying the noise was just contractors working on the roof and to continue with our lessons. I called the office immediately and told the secretary we needed to go into lockdown, but Baxter grabbed the phone from her and hissed at me to stop being hysterical. He said if I scared the students or disrupted the school day over construction noise, he'd have me removed from the building and make sure my teaching license got reviewed by the board. 5 minutes later, we heard more pops, this time from the main hallway, followed by screaming that made my blood turn to ice. Baxter came back on the intercom insisting the drama class was rehearsing, and everyone needed to remain calm and stay in their classrooms for instructional time. I looked at my 30 students staring at me with huge eyes, waiting for me to tell them what to do, and one girl in the front row whispered that her friend just texted that someone with a weapon was in the building. Baxter's voice crackled through again, saying any teacher who initiated lockdown procedures without his authorization would be terminated immediately and prosecuted for inciting panic. That's when I made the choice that probably saved our lives, but definitely ended my career. I told my students to help me barricade the door with every desk we could move, and while they were stacking furniture, I called 911 on my cell and whispered that we had an active threat at the high school, and the principal was refusing to lock down. The dispatcher said units were already responding to multiple calls, and she told me to shelter in place immediately, which made me realize other teachers were defying Baxter too. We turned off the lights and huddled in the corner while I texted every teacher I had numbers for to barricade now, regardless of what Baxter said. Through the door's narrow window, I saw teachers running down the hallway with their students, and some were crying while others were carrying kids who'd frozen in fear. The intercom kept cutting in and out with Baxter's increasingly panicked voice, demanding everyone return to normal schedule. But then we heard glass breaking from the direction of the main office. His next announcement turned into a scream that cut off mid-sentence, and then the intercom went completely silent. My students were sobbing quietly in the corner while I stood between them and the door holding a baseball bat I'd found in the closet, trying to look brave when really I wanted to crawl under my desk and disappear. We could hear footsteps running past our room, and every time the doorknob rattled even slightly, 30 kids held their breath at once. The police sirens were getting closer, but they sounded so far away. One of my students showed me a text from her boyfriend saying someone was going room to room on the first floor trying door handles, and we were on the first floor. The smell of smoke started seeping under our door, and I realized something was burning nearby. My student asked if we should try to run for the exit, but I knew that leaving our barricaded room was probably aside, so we stayed put while the smoke got thicker and the footsteps got closer. I heard doors slamming and more glass breaking, then this horrible laugh that didn't sound right, like someone who'd completely lost their mind. The footsteps stopped right outside our door, and the handle turned slowly, testing if it was locked, and then something slammed into it hard enough to make the whole frame shake. My students were pressing themselves against the back wall, trying to become invisible while I stood there with my stupid bat, knowing it wouldn't help at all. The door handle turned again, harder this time, and then we heard 3 loud bangs against the door that left holes letting in light from the hallway. Through those holes, I could see Baxter crawling down the hallway with blood on his shirt, trying to reach his office while looking over his shoulder at something we couldn't see yet. He was whimpering, and his perfect suit was torn, and when he saw me looking through the hole in my door, he mouthed the word help before something dragged him backward out of view. The footsteps came back to our door, and this time I could see a shadow through the holes moving slowly and deliberately, like they had all the time in the world. My students behind me were so quiet I couldn't even hear them breathing, and I raised the bat knowing it was pointless, but needing to do something. The shadow paused right at our door, and through the hole, I saw an eye looking back at me, young and cold and absolutely empty, and I recognized him as a former student who Baxter had expelled last year after refusing to hear his side of a bullying incident. He smiled at me through that hole and raised something toward the door, and all I could think was that 30 kids were about to watch me die. Full story on the channel below.